Hi everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success, and in our current climate, maximize safety while providing people with fresh food. Farmers markets are essential. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast. On today's episode of Tent Talk, we're going to take a breath and talk a little about where we all are now and what's next, including registration going live for Intense, the Farmers Market Conference. I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers. I've spent years as an on-site farmers market manager, currently walkie-talkie charger, and street chalker. What's my job right now? And I'm also the education coordinator and more at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager, reading those space numbers off to Bridget as she chalks the street in the dark, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of the Farmers Market Pros community and Intense, the Farmers Market Conference.
And I'm co-host Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer, marketing director for Farmers Market Pros, and logistics coordinator for Intense, the Farmers Market Conference 2021. And I get to do the first plug for our conference tickets today. We're coming to you live online February 15th through 18th. And if you would like to register, you can now do so on our website. Use the code at checkout, TALK21, that's all caps, TALK 21. And you get a little discount when you register for the conference.
Just a little treat for our podcast listeners.
We love you guys.
We do.
So exciting. Well, welcome back to Tent Talk, everyone. Today we are chatting about where we are in the world today and where we've been these last 8 months at our markets and just a little bit of how to plan for what's next, which is what we're all looking forward to, right? 2020 being over.
2020 being over. You know, I was just telling somebody I pulled out a long sleeve t-shirt because it's gotten a little nippy here in San Diego. I know you folks back east are going to laugh when I say we're freezing out here and we're in the low 70s.
I had to get a comforter on my bed last night. Right. Very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. But I have all these t-shirts that we printed for the markets at the end of last year that say things like, turning the corner in 2020, 2020 vision, it's a brand new year. You know, all these slogans that clearly were designed because we were so eager to leave 2019. And looking back now, 2019 was a pretty good year, right?
Yeah. Back there.
I can't even remember what was wrong with 2019. It seems like a perfectly good year from this perspective.
2019 was perfect in every way. Let's go back. Oh, well, maybe 2021. 2021 vision.
2021 vision,
Not really
that's
the same ring to it, but
no, I'll have to worry about something.
For it.
Find another catchy slogan.
Plus, I hate making plans now, but
yeah,
you know, got to do it.
Got to do it, and that's we're going to talk a little bit about that because it's tricky.
That's right.
Right? I mean, I just pulled up. We got so busy we kept in touch every week with Tent Talk, but we haven't done our email newsletter in a few minutes. For a few months.
Don't make eye contact with Justine.
A few months. And so when I pulled up our email templates and I realized I had actually started an email newsletter in the very 1st of April. And I had written one 2 weeks before in March. And the lead on that one in April said, incredibly, just a few weeks ago, we said here, so far we haven't heard of any communities directing farmers markets to close. What a difference a month makes. While Washington's governor calls farmers markets essential, Seattle farmers markets are still closed by order of the mayor. So that was in April.
Wow.
We were shocked that had happened because
Remember
2
being
weeks
shocked
earlier.
by things?
Remember being shocked? Yes.
Yeah, also haven't felt shocked in a while.
No, not in a while.
In a dull sense.
Yeah, so it's crazy that it's been 8 months and that things have not just magically gone back to normal, but continued to be weird.
Weirder and wilder.
Right?
Yeah. But it has sharpened our improvisational skills.
This is true. That's right. I know pivot is an overused word, but aren't we all?
Yeah.
I like Maya when she said, we just all pulled on our big girl pants.
That's right.
That's what I say. We just pulled our big girl pants on or big boy pants and just kind of figured it out. And we're all still here. Well, hopefully we're all still here.
Most of us
Everyone
are still
listening.
Here. Yeah. And I know that some smaller markets actually did kind of fall by actually, one of our markets hasn't reopened, although we're opening in December as a holiday market. just for the month of December, just kind of see how it goes. But I know some smaller markets with the additional staff requirements and reduced footprints and things have not been able to swing it. So yes, we lost a few, but most people pivoted in one way or another. And it's been amazing what we've accomplished. Round of applause for market managers and farmers and vendors all over the country that figured it out.
Yeah, either doing drive-through markets or delivery or just all the different things that people we've talked to on the podcast and just things we've seen around the country that people have made changes, like hard changes, huge markets that are now half the size like ours, or whatever kind of changes you're making to your market. Just kind of, we're all hanging in there. So we're all, kind of seeing what's going to happen next, but we know that we can do it, and we know we can do something.
Whatever's coming, we'll figure it out and manage it.
Yeah.
I know that some markets that were doing pre-order or drive-through for a while are still doing that and say they'll do it forever. And some of them have replaced those with in-person markets, but some of them have just added in-person markets. And now it's sort of a hybrid and people are doing both.
Yeah.
So we not only figured it out, we doubled our workload.
Yeah.
Go us.
Not exactly the plan you had for this year, right?
It wasn't,
You're slowly backing away from the operations.
From the retail side, yeah.
Now you're back.
Now I'm back, chalk in hand.
Who knew? Moving those barricades.
That's right. Never did stop moving those barricades.
Well, it will be interesting for those seasonal markets where their season is winding down. It's getting colder across the country. Kind of what they'll come up with during this off time, and maybe how they may adjust for next spring or next early summer, because this year, spring and summer, we didn't have much time to come up with a whole plan before.
Right, we're doing it on the fly.
We're doing it on the fly, but it will be interesting to see what those seasonal market managers are able to do in their downtime, and the plans that they'll be able to figure out, or if they are able to do fundraising or apply for grants or get sponsorships, or what they're able to come up with during the off season.
Yeah, so we just keep going because we've got that year-round market thing happening. But I know there's a lot of markets right now where the last market is the end of October or the first week or two of November. So we're seeing a lot of folks kind of gearing down for the season. Some of them typically go ahead to do at least shorten the season of winter markets, like we talked about last week with Sean.
Yeah.
And some of them are still doing that, and some of them aren't. Some of them are just taking the break this year. But I just talked to a market manager in the Pacific Northwest that said, typically what we do now is we close down for the season. We don't do a winter market. We're closed for 5 months, and then we open again strong. And so we spend all this time with staff retreats and planning and budgeting and that kind of thing. And she said, I just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
So right now when you're in that planning process, what's the budget going to look like? Are the markets going to come back and be bigger? Are they going to remain small? Is it possible we end up with tighter restrictions? There's a thought about a winter wave that could tighten things up really badly again, or we could get through this in one way or another and end up with larger markets again next spring. But it's just for market managers that, not that we're control freaks, but we're used to planning things out and making things happen. It's really frustrating to just have to get to the point where you put your Zen on and realize planning is futile.
Yeah. I think the learning kind of that we can take from this too is maybe make a few different plans.
True.
Because you just don't know where it's going to go. Are things going to be loosened up a little bit so we can have more options? Are we going to have to tighten down again? It would behoove all of us to kind of make a couple different plans.
Yeah.
So then we can kind of go with whatever the time, like what's happening in January, what's happening in March next year. We can have like a variety of plans that we've already thought through, kind of thought out and written everything down and put stuff in place. And then we can go with what's best for what's happening situationally in the world or in your neighborhood community.
That's really smart. So some if-thens kind of plans.
And also, as at least at our market, we've learned there's certain things that we have to budget for that probably didn't have to do before. Like, for example, pre-COVID, we had signs that we used every week. And since COVID, we've had to print a few different variations of signs. And that is something that for 2021, your market may need to continue to do as regulations continue to change, as hopefully things loosen up, but maybe there's going to be restrictions that need to continue. Maybe no longer people have to stand 6 feet apart, but they still have to wear masks, or vice versa, or so something to consider. That those
make
things
that, move
you
that
didn't...
line item up.
Yeah, maybe training wise and education wise, while your staff is taking a break or while your markets are continuing to roll through the winter, maybe get someone on your team up to speed on Canva so you can design your own signs a lot quicker. And find a print shop that can print quickly for you. I know that's exactly what we've done. Is I've learned how to make market signage on Canva, and I can now have that skill and can do it. And we have a sign maker that can get us signs turned around in a week. So that's a helpful thing to have if you don't already have that. Because maybe you printed a set of signs when you opened your market and you've just been using those signs, which is typical. Maybe get a plan in place where you can kind of quickly get some new signage.
Yeah. I wish we had the time necessary or the staff abilities to really have like a full-time volunteer person that can just wrangle volunteers. So maybe during your off time, that's something that you work on. Maybe reaching out to other groups that help gather volunteers, or maybe a local community group, or maybe a community college, or schools that have kids that need stuff to do, and really bolster up your volunteer force. So when your market does come back in the spring, you have people that you can train and help them staff your markets.
Exactly. Yeah, just kind of tapping into those groups where maybe you didn't need to rely on volunteers for your market ever, because you just had a staff, or you just had a few people running your market. But now you have to have a lot more hands on deck. So go out and kind of explore those options that you have. And you might be surprised too. I'm always kind of surprised just because we've never relied on volunteers for our market. But then now that we do, there are people available, and there are good people available. I always thought volunteers would be like standing on the corner, taking up space, kind of, don't cross the street yet kind of people. But we've had some really dynamic volunteers at our market that have really helped us out. And I know we've talked to other market managers that feel the same. So maybe reach out and try to kind of get that network set up ahead of time.
Yeah,
so you have
it just
options.
Takes time to find them.
Yeah.
And then also set up an infrastructure by which they can sign up, or they can, scheduling, all that takes time. And that's something that is hard to do when you're in the thick of it and you're just desperate for people to help you out at that market that's coming up in a couple of days. But if you are a seasonal market and you have some time in between seasons, that you can maybe develop a volunteer handbook or build a really simple, there's different sign-up platforms that you can use that are free, but just setting them up in the first place does take time. So those are some things that market managers or market staff can do in the interim.
Yeah, not to have to do like in a rushed way.
Right.
So get that kind of set up.
Yeah. Of course, deciding what kind of volunteers will be available is kind of like figuring out what marketing to do.
Yeah.
If it's still a bad idea for medically fragile people or somebody who has a medically fragile person in their household to be out facing the public, then it gets a little bit trickier. I think that's been one of the tricks for us with volunteers, is that some of those older people that typically have a little bit more time and are eager to volunteer don't feel like it's safe to be out in the public right now.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say what's coming next.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, in addition to making a plan for the budget being difficult, making a plan for marketing is a little bit crazy right now, because are we going to be back to normal, hey, let's do everything we can to get as many people in the market as possible, attract more shoppers, or are we going to be where we are now, which is like, hey, come on out and then go home.
Yeah.
Come on out, but not all of you.
I was looking at our social media from the past 8 months, and it was like, I remember thinking, okay, when are we going to transition from, all right, don't forget that there's rules, there's going to be a line, it's going to be gated off, wear a mask, all the rules is what we were really kind of pounding to, like, then I posted, like, hey, summer squash is in season, like, and it seems so kind of like frivolous marketing, where I'm like, is it okay to do this now? Like, can we talk about stocking up and, like, or coming to shop for, like, a big meal? Like, when are we talking about things that we used to just be like, hey, like, come get your flowers and look, there's pumpkins on the table. Like, when are we transitioning to that? So kind of, again, having a couple different plans for marketing, maybe like, hey, this is like our heavy rules marketing for when things are, if things, get tougher. And this is, a really great marketing strategy and plan for if things like get better, and what's in season in the spring, and like, what do you want to promote in the spring and the summer?
Yeah.
So it's, tough again, but like making a couple different plans is probably the best bet. So then you're covered.
I think that's the answer.
Yeah.
An A and a B and probably a C, D, and E.
Yeah.
And that's going to take more time when you might not have more time right now because maybe you're homeschooling your kids or maybe you're not making as much money at your market as you used to be. So you have something else that's supplementing your income that you're focusing your attention on or whatever's happening.
Yeah.
All the things in the world. But yeah, I think maybe making a couple different plans is a good idea. And like Leilani was saying a few episodes ago, get those handbooks in order. First of the year is a great time to get market rules in order and kind of have all your vendors and farmers kind of re-sign up and get on the same page as everybody.
Yeah,
so
that's a really good point of just like getting your rules set out, you know, dusting off those old vendor handbooks that maybe you haven't had to really like look at for a couple of years, but it's a great time to really look at your policies and make sure that they're clear and if they need to update them. And another really great thing from the episode that we had with Sean last week that I think really falls in line with this, he was talking about making a plan for their winter markets, and him and his farmers market group, they were like, we didn't want to fail and then figure out how to not fail in the moment. We set forward with a clear plan ahead of time, kind of like worst case scenario, that to protect us. And I think that that's a really good thing thinking about next year is like, maybe don't wait until another horrible thing happens and then have to deal with it, but think of a couple of different scenarios, and if you don't have to execute your worst case scenario plan, that's great. But you at least have it there in case you need it. Yeah. And that can go for budgeting or marketing or volunteer, any of those things. Have a few different plans.
Yeah, it'll help you sleep sounder at night when maybe there's other things that are keeping you up at night. Just knock that one off to get it off your mind. And yeah, just get really clear about your objectives for the market. What is your mission statement? What protocols are you going to be following for A, B, and C scenario? And just get really clear. I mean, I know when our markets first shut down, we were like, oh, we don't have like we could email all of our vendors, but we started like taking cell phone number, like, getting the most current cell phone number for all of our vendors so we could like text them minute by minute kind of updates on things. And so it was like, yes, we're on tomorrow. And then half an hour later, like, no, the city said, no, we can't be on. Yeah. Okay, but we can have a little bit. Nope, now they're saying nobody. So it's like going back and forth, and it was confusing for vendors where we had outdated information or they preferred email over text or vice versa. So just making sure you're on the same page with your vendors and farmers about how to communicate very clear with them, because as we know, as 2020 has taught us, things can change really rapidly. So just being prepared for that is just, might as well spend the time to do that now. So you're not kind of flying by the seat of your pants later.
That's a really good point about being able to communicate with your vendors. And another thing that, kind of we were facing, again, we have year-round markets, so unfortunately, we don't get this little downtime during the winter.
Right. Who else is jealous of seasonal markets? I'm jealous.
Although we've spoken to people who have seasonal markets, they're like, it's not downtime. We have a lot of planning, which is also true. Yeah.
It's like saying teachers don't work in the summer, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But also, we realized that our website that we had wasn't really useful in communicating. Useful is
you can just say it wasn't really useful, period.
But it was
difficult
outdated
to update,
and it was difficult to get information out to the public, which we really needed to at certain points, to just be like, hey, pump the brakes, like not everybody show up to the market, or these are the rules. So that was something that we updated our website, and that might be another thing for market managers during this time where you're not spending all your time at the market. Maybe you can focus on these other areas of how can I communicate to the public, how am I communicating to my vendors, and doing a lot of these backside stuff that will help you out next season. Hopefully when we won't be as faced with all, hopefully we won't have as many of these challenges, but just getting those things in place right now.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe bolstering your social media presence. If you don't have an Instagram page, maybe start that and let people know that is where they can find really rapid updates.
Because it's such an easy way to provide quick updates.
Yeah, I know we use that a lot.
And it's free, which a lot of market managers may be, looking for free resources right now.
Budgets are tight. Yeah. Shout out to Justine for, even though we did not get any downtime, for jumping in there and learning, building that skill set in terms of web design and revamping our whole web presence in the middle of everything else we were doing that was crazy.
Everything collapsing. Yes, thank you for doing that.
That's awesome.
And that'll be like, long game. that is a skill that is good anytime.
That's right.
I mean, you're not just learning like emergency skills to be used during chaotic times. It's like these are also skills that you can use for the rest of your life.
Even in good times, it's nice to have a great website.
I mean, I use Canva no matter what. So it's like getting those skills is really, you know, can help later as well. So don't think of it as, you know, it's not a wasted investment of your time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what else? When you have a little time off, you can get educated. Or actually, even if you don't have time off, get educated. Education counts, and comparing notes with other people that have been in all of this with us. We're all in this together, just not too close together, remember?
Yes.
6 feet apart, always. So back right before this started was the last time we really talked about conferences and education and state association meetings and that kind of thing, because it was a really exciting time. It was that time of year when all of those things were happening.
Yeah, the spring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was great. I'll always think of
things.
California Small Farm Conference as the weekend I found out it was all going down.
Your last big hurrah.
My
Yes.
the last big one. That was scary. And then there were a whole bunch of conferences scheduled right after that, and some of them switched really fast. Shout out to Alaska, who like in a matter of weeks figured out a whole new program and did a really nice online conference.
Talk about pivot.
Yeah, no kidding. And that was right after everything shut down this last spring. And they're back in November. They've got a food system conference. It's going to be online in November. So a lot of conferences are coming up again now. Some of them have changed the time of year they operate because they had to skip their conference in the spring or summer, and so they're back again now a little bit earlier. Some of them are going to be on essentially the same schedule, but there's a lot of work going into figuring out the best ways to present that information. You can do it on Zoom if you've got sort of a small, short annual meeting kind of conference. If you've got a bigger conference than that, keeping people engaged for a number of days is requiring a little bit better technology than your basic Zoom meeting that you use for staff meetings and wishing Dad happy birthday now. so
It's a little bit different kind of platform.
it is a different platform, yeah. But there's a lot coming up. Alaska, as I said, has a conference the first part of November. If you're in Minnesota, the Minnesota Farmers Market Association conference is over several days, the first part of December. Oregon, November as well, TILF is going on, which is a little bit different organization, mostly geared to farmers. And then one of the big ones for us always, EcoFarm, is happening in January. Not this year at the astoundingly beautiful site where they're usually held, right on the ocean, with the deer wandering between you as you walk to sessions.
It's those conferences where it's like these beautiful destinations that I know people are missing.
Like, bummer.
I know,
Yeah.
and I mean our conference as well. I know a lot of people come out because it's so beautiful
right
there.
on the
But I know
water.
EcoFarm is so great, and just all
EcoFarm is
this-
beautiful.
Yeah.
But on the bright side, is one of those silver lining things. There's a lot of people that couldn't afford to go to EcoFarm before. I mean, it was kind of a haul. It wasn't really next door to a major airport. You had to make a little bit of a trek. And so they're expecting to have a lot more people this year than they ever have, even though it's always been a big conference. It'll be even bigger because you don't have to travel. You can tune in from wherever you are, even if you're a farmer that can't get off the farm for 4 days, which has always been sort of a barrier for EcoFarm people because it is aimed primarily at farmers.
Yeah.
We like to say EcoFarm teaches you to farm, and then 1 month later, Intense, the Farmers Market Conference, teaches you how to sell what you grew. So
It's a good pairing.
It's a good pairing. Yeah.
it's a good pairing, yeah. So EcoFarm will be going on in January, and Intense, the Farmers Market Conference will be back in February, 15th through the 18th.
Yeah, and same thing too. I know a lot of people have always wanted to come to the conference and have just, you know, had their markets on Sunday or Tuesday or whatever day our conference has landed on, or they just can't take the time away, or, you know, for whatever reason they can't come across the country. So I'm really hoping that we get a lot of those people to come join us virtually from wherever they are. And so we can really bring them in and they can really be a part of the conference this year, just like we've always wanted them to, and they've always wanted to come. Now that barrier is kind of lifted, kind of silver lining, like, of this situation that we're all in, is that whole travel barrier for some is just no one's traveling. So we can all do it virtually. We can see those people at the conference. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we seem to be hearing one of two things out there in our social media platforms and in our private group on Facebook and things. We either have people going, oh, I'm so excited, this year I can go to the Intense conference because I don't have to take off work, I don't have to fly. Or there's another whole group of people saying, we can't go eat tacos.
I
we wanted to go back to that
We
great
can't see the
place we've
beach.
been.
We can't see the boats.
Yeah, Chris
Yeah.
Quinlan will get to do stand-up paddleboarding
Oh.
because he'll be in Canada
Good.
calling in.
That whole group had sushi on the beach last year, and I know they had a blast. So
Yeah.
just have to save those memories, and then hopefully 2022 we'll be back to some kind of gathering, and we can. But like we've been discussing, we'll also probably carry on some kind of virtual element forever now with conferences, right? So people can choose that option, or they can come meet us in years to come.
Yeah, it's kind of like the markets now that have introduced online pre-orders. A lot of them are finding that there's a certain segment of their shoppers that really like that. So even though they're phasing back into in-person markets, they're keeping that piece. As we said, everybody's workload is going to double. And I think that's going to be the case with conferences. We're probably, in the future, at some point, we'll be back to some in-person action. But we'll probably also now have a virtual element every time we do a conference at whatever kind of different pricing or access. There's some people that just can't take the time to come, so that'll be nice for them. And actually, we have a package this year for our conference that's specifically designed so that for a reasonable price, if you want your whole market to come to the conference, you can buy a package that gives you or maybe a couple of your market managers really deep full access, but then also supplies a way for all of your other team members and your farmers and vendors to listen in and be able to catch all of the sessions online. So that's kind of a fun thing. And I'm thinking that, again, none of us know what it's going to be like in February. I suspect that it's not going to be totally back to quote unquote normal. But market managers are pretty good at designing ways for people to get together and still be safe. It may be that you can set up some kind of outdoor gathering where your group can watch the conference as a group, which would be fun. So you've got still some networking opportunities there, just even though it's amongst yourself regionally. It'd be nice if by February that works out. We don't know, but it'd be nice.
We wish we could tell you. Believe me.
But we hope, and that particular registration package will help you put something like that together.
Yeah, I love that idea. Just gathering where you are, if you can, and if it's safe, and then also sitting in your own living room and joining us there by yourself is also amazing as well. We're all good. There's going to be a fair amount of people there doing that by themselves. So
And I mean, so many people that work in farmers markets, whether you're a manager, a farmer, a food vendor, or whatever, a lot of them are family businesses. And I know that a lot of times at Intense, when we would have people in person, probably one person is at home holding down the fort or continuing to work the markets that week or on the farm. And so this is kind of a cool opportunity for somebody, for couples or for family members or for people that couldn't always travel all together, that potentially they can all participate in some part of the conference online. So I don't know, it's farmers markets have always kind of been like an old school, like kind of like more of an analog operation. This is kind of a cool way we're seeing, one of the silver linings with this year is that it's kind of pulling us into the 21st century a little bit, and with all of these different ways that we're being able to connect using technology. I think that it has been hard, and I know that some people, it's a bigger learning curve. It's been a challenge for some markets more than others, but I think ultimately we'll all be better for it. And we're finding ways to connect through it. So I'm excited. I am sad that we won't be seeing everybody in person, but I'm excited about the online conference that we're putting together.
Fun stuff planned.
Very excited.
That's right.
I feel like our conference last year was the last time that I hugged strangers and stuff. It's because we had our conference right before, a month before everything was getting shut down. So it's a nice memory of all of us together. I've been debating. I want to post a bunch of photos from last year, but I'm like, is this going to make people sad? They're going to be happy. But I might post some from the conference last year just to remember that time and get kind of excited about quote unquote seeing each other. Because I find even now when we do parent-teacher conference or parent-teacher meetings at my kids' school, we do them via Zoom, obviously. But when we do that, I'm like, oh, this is going to be boring, we're doing over Zoom. But then just seeing their faces of people that are like-minded and in my kind of network, and maybe I used to hug them or I've seen them, it's like, oh, it feels good.
Yeah.
Even though it's on Zoom, it feels really good, and it feels good to connect. So I think we're going to have that same kind of feeling with our conference.
I think so too.
Yeah, so we'll see
Seeing
old
familiar
friends,
faces.
we'll make new friends, and maybe people that we've met through social media or through interviewing for the podcast. Like, we'll see them at the conference, and it'll feel like
It'll be fun.
Feel like home.
Yeah.
We actually we've done a lot of research on technology platforms for the conference, and what we'll be using will have a really robust networking feature where you can still have kind of one-on-one conversations and even meet people randomly.
Yeah, there's like
like
kind of like a little fun. It's kind of like a speed dating feature
Exactly.
where like you can like also remember that thing like 10 years ago, chat roulette. You can like press a little button and it like matches you up with somebody, and you get to talk for a few minutes, and then you can be like, okay, see you later, and then and then you can click it again and it matches you up with somebody else. So
Sort of like electronically, like meeting somebody in line for coffee.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, meeting someone at the taco booth.
Yeah.
yeah, or just like when when we had our little mixer at the conference last year, you're kind of just like waiting in line to get food and just chatting to the person next to you or whatever.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Trying to kind of recreate that experience. And our resource lounge will still be operating with our vendors and resources and sponsors in their own little electronic booths to say hello.
Honestly, maybe even more important now are like those people in our like that work in our industry that we need, like maybe market managers who never needed like a market management software or didn't need like a bright new tent with a big like information sign on it, but now they do because their market, that's so much more needed now because their market is set up differently or something like that. Like those sponsors and those resources that we have at the conference are gonna, I feel like, are gonna be so important and like such a nice thing for our attendees to be able to have access to and talk to those people in their little resource rooms.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm going to plug it again. If you want to register for the conference, there are a few different levels online, and we'll be sharing more throughout the next couple of weeks about the differences between all those levels of registration. But there's all that information online. You can go to farmersmarketpros.com/conference, and you can find all the info there. And if you use the discount code TALK, TALK21, you get a little discount for being one of our awesome Tent Talk listeners.
That's right.
Because we love you guys.
That's right.
Awesome. All right. Well, this was a good catch up and moving upward and onward. What's your slogan? Onward and forward.
Not back to normal, forward to better.
Oh, yes. I botched it. I like that better. I'm excited. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. And farmers markets are all about community, and all of us, operators, farmers, and vendors, keep learning. We offer a variety of ways to do that. Learn what's happening at markets in other parts of the country and share what's happening in your area in terrific conversations over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Find us there, answer 3 qualifying questions, and join that group. If you are just getting started and getting ready to launch your farmers market business, increase your chances of success by taking www.vendor-101.com. That's our vendor preparation class, now online and available for aspiring vendors throughout the U.S. Again, that's vendor-101.com. Take advantage of our special discount code for podcast listeners, TALK21, and register now for Intense, the Farmers Market Conference at farmersmarketpros.com. Now's the time to get the earliest of early bird prices and reserve your place at this 4-day virtual conference coming to you live online in February. Have a question? You can always message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros or email us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. Thanks you guys so much for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you are accessing your podcast right now, and tell us and others how you're enjoying Tent Talk. If you're listening on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss our next episode. Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is proudly produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thank you so much for listening today, and we'll have another great episode next week. Tune in.